we talking about none but Israel, because Israel is the bride of Christ. Let's go to Micah, the 5th chapter. Let's go and show you now, this didn't just start in the New Testament. Obviously, it didn't start in the New Testament. Jesus just didn't pop up and decide to come to Israel, the lost sheep in the New Testament. No, that's who we've been dealing with all along. That's been the plan all along. Like I said earlier, he was the God of the Old Testament, dealing with Israel back then. So yeah, when they messed up, he came to recoup his bride, because they had messed up. And he was telling you that right here, Micah 5, and we're going to start at verse 1. See, if you just read the Bible and put the pieces together, it'll all fall in place. But too many preachers reading a couple of verses, a verse, a half a verse, and the choir going to sing all day. And he going to talk a good story, but he not showing you what the Bible is saying. You just getting what's on his mind. You don't even need to know what's on my mind. You need to know what's on the Lord's mind, and it's in the Word of God. I might have some crazy stuff on my mind sometime. You find out about that, you say, hey, never going back to that church. So you don't need to know what's on my mind. That's why I ain't bothering to tell you what's on my mind. I'm bothering to tell you what's on the Lord's mind in his Word. Micah, the 5th chapter, 5 and 1. Go ahead.
Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He have laid siege against us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with the rod upon the cheek.
That's what they had to do. We still talking about Israel, but they smote the judge of Israel with the rod upon the cheek. But he had something planned. Go ahead.
But thou, Bethlehem, Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose going forth has been from old, from everlasting.
See, now this is the birthplace of Jesus. It was already foretold. Bethlehem, that's where he had to be born in. That's one way you can identify the Son of God, or the Messiah, the Christ, the Anointed One. He had to be born in Bethlehem. Nowhere else. Because this prophecy told us that, but thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah. It's a small town in Judah. Yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel. This is what the Pharisees quoted to Pilate in Matthew 2, to show that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, which he was. Because the prophet said it. He going to come out of Bethlehem, come forth unto me, that is to be ruled in Israel. But then it says something else at the end of verse 2. It said, whose going forth have been from of old, from everlasting. See, so this is not a new plan that he came up with Israel, obviously. He just don't change his old plan. He didn't change it. He made Israel his bride when he brought them out of Egypt, brothers and sisters. That's when they entered into a covenant together. And that cannot change. Even though we broke the covenant, he made a way to reinstitute another covenant. That's why when we had messed up, that's why Jesus said, he sent his disciples, he said, look, only go to the lost sheep of Israel. Don't go nobody else. Because he knew he had to straighten his bride out. So, but he been around forever. That's like I was saying, he was the God of the Old Testament. That's why I said, who's going forth have been from of old, from everlasting. The one that was born in Bethlehem, he'd been around forever. Go ahead, verse 3.
Therefore will he give them up.
Oh, but yet and still, even after he was born in Bethlehem, the prophet knew that he wasn't going to totally deliver Israel then. Because else we shouldn't be in captivity now if he was going to totally deliver us at his first coming. So he said, therefore will he give them up. So he had to come out of Bethlehem, and he had his ministry. We saw when he sent his disciples out preaching. We saw what John said, he that got the bride is the bridegroom. But then he ended up dying, being crucified, because that was part of the plan. So that's how he gave us up in the meantime. So we still scattered for the time being. But he's going to rectify it all at his second coming, because we are still his bride. Israel is still his bride. So he said, verse 3, therefore will he give them up until when?
Until the time that she which travaileth have brought forth.
Oh, he likened it to a woman going through birthing pains, right? Because it's his bride. He said he's going to give them up until the time that she which travaileth have brought forth. until his wife give birth. Go ahead.
Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel.
See, and then once she done brought forth, once she done suffered enough, like a woman suffering in labor, then he gonna fix it all up. But he had to give us up even though he made his first coming. We're going to come back to Micah. Let's look at this. Go to Revelation. We're going to come back to Micah in a couple of scriptures. Put your marker there or something. Let's go to Revelation 12, though. Let's see what he means about she travailing and all of that. Again, the Bible is one from Genesis to Revelation. That's why we can read all these different scriptures all over the Bible pertaining to the same topic, so we can get understanding. Just like the last couple of weeks, we did a lesson just simply called Consider the Cost. We read scriptures all over the Bible to show you that you have to know it comes with a cost when you come to the Lord. Responsibility come with it. Revelation 12 and verse 1. Go ahead.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven.
Uh-huh.
A woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
See, now here's a woman again. We keep reading about a woman because the title is Israel, the bride of Christ. So, this woman is Israel. It's his church. He said there appeared a great wonder in heaven. The woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. What the 12 stars represent? It represent the 12 tribes of Israel. And you can read Genesis 37 where he showed you an example of that. If Joseph was talking, it was 11 stars because he made the 12th one. But go ahead, let's see about this woman. Go ahead.
And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered.
See, now this is the woman right here. She being with child, she's travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. But he said he was going to give her up until she delivered, right? And even some after that, because she got some more delivering to do. But go ahead, we're going to see. Verse 3.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head.
Go ahead, verse 4.
And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
See, the dragon is representing Satan, and the woman, of course, is Israel. See, that's why it's no coincidence that Jesus came out of Israel. He had to come out of Israel because that is the woman. So he came out of Israel to save Israel. That's why he didn't come out of Korea or Arabia or Ethiopia. No, he came out of Israel. He was a descendant of King David, born out of the house of Judah to save Israel. But as soon as he was born, Satan was trying to kill him. That was through Herod, the governor at that time. You can read Matthew, the 1st chapter. He killed all the babies, 2 and under. All the boys trying to kill him. So, that's what it said. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Verse 5. Revelation 12 and verse 5 now. Go ahead.
And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne.
So now she brought forth a man-child. That man-child is none other than Jesus. He is the one that came out of Israel. And her child was caught up. He was to rule all nations, and he not ruling all nations yet. So therefore the travail is really still going on, even though she done brought forth him. But he's the one that's going to stop the travail in the end and bring it all back together. So he said he was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. That shows you he going to run the world with a heavy hand. He going to make sure everybody toe the line. And that's at his second coming. That's what he coming to do. And that's when he going to bring his bride back to him finally. See, all the stuff he did at his first coming when he was born was preliminary. He got to come again. So it said in verse 5, and she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. So that lets you know this is what he was talking about in Micah. He was born in Bethlehem. See, notice, after he was born, he still had to give them up, it said in Micah the 5th chapter. He said, therefore shall he give them up until the time which she of travail had brought forth. See, because Israel still got some travailing to do. He's going to even tell you about how they're going to have to escape for some travail, the great tribulation. But now, that's what he said. Her child was called up to God until his throne. Go to Matthew 9. Then we're going back to Micah. Matthew 9. So you can't get away from Israel from Genesis to Revelation. That's why it's foolish for people to be talking about Israel on one hand and the church on the other hand. Israel is the church. Israel is the bride. Everybody of every other nationality, they got to become a part of Israel. That's what Paul told the Ephesians. He said in the past you were separating aliens from Israel, but now you can be a part of the commonwealth of Israel. So he was telling those Ephesians that they had to become one with Israel. See, it's kind of, people are kind of made to think now that the church was established by somebody else and everybody got to be one with them. But now, Matthew 9, and we're going to pick it up at verse 14. Matthew 9 and verse 14. Go ahead.
Then came to him the disciples of John, saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast oft, but thy disciples fast not? Okay, now look, they came to Jesus. And they said, why do we and the Pharisees, this is some of John's followers again, we fast off, but your disciples don't fast. See, just like we just had our regular fast. Fasting is good because you can put your attention on the Lord. But they were saying, look, we doing all this fasting, your disciples not fasting. But he's going to tell them something. Verse 15. And Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? He said, look, can the children of the bride chamber mourn? Now he called himself the bridegroom. John the Baptist called him the bridegroom in John the 3rd chapter. And said, he that hath the bride is the bridegroom. But now he's referring to himself. He said, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? See, the bridegroom was with us, but it wasn't time for the marriage yet. It wasn't time yet, even though he was with us. Because we read that he was going to be born in Bethlehem and then he was going to have to give them up. We read that the woman was going to bring forth a man-child, but her child was going to be caught up unto God to his throne. So that lets you know he was going to be born and handle part of the business, but then die and go back to heaven. Resurrect and go back to heaven. So he said, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But what? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. See, but he let it be known. He said, look, I'm handling it now. Since I'm here with them, that's why they ain't worried. I'm handling the whole load. But he let us know that was going to come a time when he was going to be taken, right? Mm-hmm. Just like we read that he was going to be caught up to God to his throne. We read in Micah he was going to give them up until a later date, right? Because some more travail got to go on for his people till we get the message. Because as long as you don't want to do God's will, you got some travail coming. So he said the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them. So the bridegroom had to leave temporarily, didn't he? Mm-hmm. And then they shall fast. See, that's why we fasting now. It's important to fast because you can put everything aside and put your attention on God and quit being caught up on stuff that really don't even matter. Micah, the 4th chapter. Back to Micah, the 4th chapter. Because we see the bridegroom. Jesus came as the bridegroom, seeking for the bride, but he didn't complete the mission his first time. He had to give us up to a later date.
And in the meantime, we still in pain. Micah 4 and verse 9. Go ahead.
Now why dost thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselors perished? For pains have taken thee as a woman in travail.
See, we still in pain. Jesus was born through the woman, but we still in some pain now. Because he's going to tell you what type of pain he's talking about. It wasn't no literal birth pains in the first place.